It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
Coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero. It's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're listening, whenever you're watching, I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the Holiday Inn and all of their properties. If you got to go stay someplace, you're traveling, you need to stay at a hotel, then make sure you stay at a Holiday Inn property. Why? Well, not only is it a great place to stay, but we can get you a Billy C discount. That's right. Make your reservations by calling our toll-free number, 844-603-0364. That's 844-603-0364. Or just click the banner up on BillyCBoxing.com. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Men on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this show. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting Tom Molyneux's story told. It's a true one. It's a great one. Read it. You want a signed copy? Visit the website, BillyCBoxing.com. Click on the book and follow the directions. You want more than one? Email me then. We'll hook you right up. Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. Coming up a little bit later, Blast from the Past time. That's right. It's time for our Blast from the Past. Alex Papali will be joining us a little bit later. This week's Blast from the Past is on former world champion William Choppy. And this was from another request. If you have a Blast from the Past request, just drop me an email. What, you don't know the email address by now? Come on, man. Billy@TalkinBoxing. TalkinBoxing.com. Also coming up a little bit later, my man Larry Hazzard is stopping by. We'll get his thoughts on some of the main topics today. What are the main topics today? Well, you know, I can't help but think and wonder. First of all, this world, she's a changing. She's a changing. She's a changing right before our eyes, right? But when I don't know when it all flipped the switch, and now fighters and you know, it's not just in the boxing game, it's in all sports. Why? Let me just say this: an individual, you know. So if you're talking about a team sport, or if you're talking, you know, obviously fighters or whatever, and they want to make a comment. Social media is a great tool, right? But why has it all of a sudden become a tool for negotiation? Why do fighters, and especially, you know, in our business, why do fighters and promoters have a tendency to use social media and or the media to do their negotiating? What happened to negotiation behind closed doors or via paper trail or, you know, in a professional manner? Why, you know, are things being dragged through social media or the media? And the two topics today are Deontay Wilder going up against Anthony Joshua, and then, of course, the whole situation with Oscar De La Hoya and his comments concerning Triple G and Canelo's rematch or potential rematch. Let's start off with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. Yesterday, Deontay Wilder made a couple of comments. Now, Deontay, uncharacteristically of himself, has been extremely quiet since the negotiations between Team AJ and Team Deontay have seriously been working. I mean, both sides have been kind of quiet, which is a good sign. I like that. No news is good news, right? But yesterday, Deontay Wilder broke that silence, and he made a comment about the fight. And he said that they've actually have two potential dates, months, and locations. Now, this is all this is all Deontay Wilder's comments, okay? And which is also a whole nother thing. The funny thing about Team Wilder is Deontay's doing all the talking. We've never heard anything from anyone else, the powers that be that drive his team. On the other side of the coin, where you have Anthony Joshua, yes, Anthony Joshua has made comments in the media and social media about his desire, but all the terms have been negotiated or discussed by his promoter, who's in the position to do so, and that's Eddie Hearn. Deontay Wilder's quote, and I quote, says, "If we have the fight in England, it'll be in September. But if this fight's in America, then it's going to be in November." It almost sounds like one of those cat in a hat rhymes, right? But he says, "We're still in negotiations, so I don't have a time frame on it just yet. But I want to let everyone know that this fight will happen. If they're serious, if they're still serious," meaning Team AJ, "we've been serious this whole way through. Joshua said he wanted the $50 million and he'd sign tomorrow. We did exactly what he said, and he didn't sign. So that shows you about his character or his team's character. I think Joshua does want to fight, but I don't think his team wants to risk all the money they've invested in him. Their investment is about to go, and they know it." Joining me right now to get his comments first on the quote is my man Sal Rocky Senecola. Sal, as you choke on your coffee there, what is sorry about that.
Good morning. Yeah,
I should have been watching. But what's your thoughts on Wilder breaking his silence, so to speak, and saying that that they're still negotiating, which is a good sign. And if the fight happens in England, it'll be in September, and if it happens in America, it's going to be in November. What's your thoughts?
Well, that's a positive thing. The fight is going to happen, and that's what I've been trying to say all along, that it's going to just be announced after all the rhetoric and all the, as I use that term, ebb and flow of what's going to happen here, there, and everywhere. But it's going to finally be announced. Guess what? We have a deal. It's set. This is what's going to unroll, and it's going to be definite. And that's how this thing is going to play out. They're using the social media to spar, if you will, no pun intended, but maybe yes, it was. And that's basically why, when you were talking about the use of the social media and how powerful it is. Well, it is. It's here to stay, and it's a wagon train that everybody wants to jump on because it's popular. It's what is the best instant release of news. And I mean, you look at how we've evolved from newspapers to news on radio, TV, and boom, now you have things happening right before us, live, streaming, and everything else. And so they're playing it out through the social media, and it's adding some of the intrigue to others, but it's also frustrating to me. But the bottom line is it's going to be negotiated. It's going to be hammered out, and it's going to be announced, and it's going to be set, and we're going to see it this year. So that's the good news.
Well, my point is about the social media is I don't think that deals should be negotiated through social media. I think it's because it's too much of a hey, it came out on the social media. That doesn't mean it's official. But a lot of fans regard it as official. Like, for example, the verbiage that Deontay Wilder is using, once again, he mentions that they offered, we gave him the $50 million and he still hasn't signed. The truth of the matter is he said, I'll give you $50 million. He said it. There has been no substantial backing of that. That's what he said. Right. That's what he said. No substantial backing. Okay. I never has a fighter, maybe Floyd Mayweather, but that's a different case. Never has a fighter, handled who's going to get paid what and mention it without any paper trail. So that whole $50 million offer to me I've always maintained that it was just a PR ploy, and it worked. I mean, it got the sides talking, but he keeps utilizing that as a legitimate offer, like it was made on paper, and Team Anthony Joshua was not taking it. With that said, of course they're serious about the fight. We don't know what the stumbling blocks are. There's no way that the fight should take place in the United States. Deontay Wilder just doesn't have the juice to have this fight in the USA, and neither should Anthony Joshua be forced in any way, shape, or form to conform to Deontay Wilder's demands. The bottom line is it's a fight that everyone wants, and Anthony Joshua should receive a bigger piece of the pie. I don't think Deontay should get as small of a piece as originally was offered, but I do believe a 60-40 split, having the fight in the UK. If they're only going to do one, I gave everybody the blueprint to financial success and fight success. But the truth of the matter is it should be a 60-40 split. I don't know what the big deal is. The Wilder side is always talking about how AJ is not doing it. But obviously, if the team from Anthony Joshua, if Eddie Hearn and company are saying, listen, here's what it's going to be. You got to fight in England. And Deontay's still saying, no, we want this, we want that. He never mentions what the stumbling blocks are. His verbiage is always, if they still want to fight, we gave him $50 million. He's not taking it. They're scared. They're this, they're that, they're the other thing. And, there's always three sides to the story. AJ's, Deontay's, and then the truth. What's your thoughts?
No, you're 100% right. And like I said, they're using the media to, we use the old term posturing. And that's exactly what a peacock's doing right now. I mean, they're posturing in the media, and that's what they're trying to do. And, a 60-40 split going into this would be fair. And guess what? On the other end of it, backload it would be more than fair to have a 60-40 reverse split. If Deontay Wilder wins, then the next fight he gets 60% and AJ gets 40. So if they want one's good for the goose, it's got to be good for the gander. I remember my mom used to say that. Anyway, I think that would be more than fair if they want to do something like that. And I do understand all the indicators and all the points that you make as far as why this should be held in the UK. But as I've said all along, it could also be presented and done in a nice way to have it also in Vegas or in the United States with some good success, I'm sure. It's just a matter of, not forcing or not having it as a leverage for Anthony Joshua to come to the United States. I mean, he's wanted to fight and be in the United States multiple times. He's expressed his interest to do so. So this may be his grand opportunity to be showcased in front of the United States. But he doesn't have to, and that's what I'm just saying. If that's a stumbling block, these are things that all can be negotiated with the rematch clause. And the 60-40 split being reversed, and one country hosting the fight, and then the next fight gets hosted by the other country. So these are all easy negotiations.
Well, one of the things that I've heard from, inside sources is that Team Wilder they're not pushing for a multi-fight deal. that their stand here is a one-fight deal. And, they're looking to cash out in one fight, so to speak. The confidence level on Team Wilder's side is so high that they feel that, he's going to go in there and knock out Anthony Joshua. I mean, that's their honest opinion. They really believe that. And the truth, and whether it's true or not, we have to wait to see. But they're not pushing for the second fight. So whereas a second fight of a 2-fight deal is the hook, you backload that, or you make a variation of the purse split depending upon the winner in the first fight. I mean, that is the logical approach, but for some reason, Team Wilder is looking for a 1-fight deal. I've said all along, how many times do I got to say it? The best, most lucrative financial deal that these two guys could make long-term for their families and everything else is a 3-fight deal. But 2 against each other, 1 against the man or whoever they want. The first fight is in England, and then they have the second fight against whoever they want, because one of them would have lost in the first fight, or even if it ended up as a draw, they need a chance to get a win. And then the second fight in America, and it's the end of the day. These guys get 3 fights and they're set for life. We're talking both of them making over $100 million over 3 fights. There's no other way to do it. I mean, AJ can make that kind of money because he's already proven that he can make $20 million a pop fighting you or me. Deontay, the most he's ever made is 2.5. So the bottom line is the stubbornness here between both sides is really ruining the fight. And the truth of the matter is, if this fight, Sal, wasn't in the heavyweight division, I think people would start to get turned off, like what's happening with Canelo and Triple G. I've gotten a bunch of communications via text and personal emails and stuff that I monitor the messages on several of our outlets, and I'll tell you what, the majority of the people concerning the Triple G Canelo rematch have already dismissed it. They don't even want it. They're so pissed at Canelo and Oscar De La Hoya, they don't even care about the fight anymore. So I mean, you push, marinate, if you will, and then all of a sudden you shoot your load, and that's the end of that. And that's what's that could be what happens with Wilder and Joshua.
It could be, but you hit it on the head the first time. Why it will not? Because it is the most famed title in the world, the heavyweights, and this is why it's going to hold us and have our interest, and we're going to ride it through. And I could easily see why Deontay Wilder is professing and saying that it should only be one fight, or he's not interested in a rematch. Why would you think he would do that? The only reason why he would say that or do that was to make this first fight a big, even kind of split in the purse or close. Because he said, hey, he's posturing is what I'm saying. This is going to be a multi-fight deal. It's going to be at least a 2-fight deal. But if he was to say, hey, guess what? This is it. One and done. We're done. I want the most money I can for this. That's what he's doing. It's just posturing, using the media to get the most money he can, which I think he deserves. And like I said, it's no shy or a hidden fact that I'm a Deontay Wilder fan. So I think that I could see him doing this and saying he wants a 1-fight deal or just one fight to help give him some resources to say, hey, this is why I want to maximize my purse split right now, instead of waiting to see if there's going to be a rematch. But the bottom line is he knows there's going to be a rematch, because both these fighters, as you said it, guess what? Boxing is still a business, and this is the way they make an income. And when you can maximize your income by having a 2 or 3 fight deal like you suggested, man, you're set for life. And no matter what, you got to look at boxing in that light, because you have no guarantees of tomorrow, and that's the bottom line.
The bottom line is that none of this should be negotiated in the press, the media, social media. None of it should. So the truth of the matter is, is whether you let the cat out of the bag, that it's a multi-fight deal or not. That's neither here nor there. It would be stupid for either of these two guys. Forget about who you think is going to win. Forget about who deserves more of the pie or whatever. It would be stupid for these guys not to, sign, seal, and deliver a multi-fight deal. It would be stupid. Who else? Listen, you said it yourself. Boxing is a business, and at the end of the day, each fighter is trying to make the maximum amount of money that they possibly can. It's a short-lived business when you're a fighter, et cetera, et cetera. So with that said, when you have the right dance partners, and it makes me wonder, if Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier and George Foreman and all those guys were around today with the way the fights get negotiated and money is made, the amount of money that they would have made is staggering, okay? Staggering, all right? But even so, the truth of the matter is that when you have the right dance partner and you have the demand, which is already both of those pieces of the puzzle are there should be no other weight. The only problem is greed. Greed keeps screwing it up. And the truth of the matter is whether you split it 60-40, 50-50, 70-30, whatever the case is, you're going to make a hell of a lot of money. And even you even said it yourself. I said it too. When the first offer was publicized, $12.5 million for one fight, or there was actually a 2-fight deal where they would backload the contract for the winner. We thought that was a substantial, $10 million more than $10 million more than Deontay Wilder ever made in his life, and we all agreed that he should jump on it and that he was stupid not to. All right, so now the tables turn a little bit, and we say, okay, maybe he wasn't, stupid to not take 12.5 because now he's in a position to make more money, but don't push the envelope. Well, he's not going to make. He's never going to make 50%. He's never going to make 50%.
No, but as you were saying that, I have this little smile on my face, like the cat who ate the canary, because wouldn't you know? Lo and behold, as they were marinating and massaging that $12.5 million split, and why we're saying, well, it's a good offer, take it, and be happy with it. Well, guess what? During this marination process and everything else, look and behold, he's looking at a bigger purse. And if that's why they did these things, as you suggested also, it's time to stop pushing the envelope, because we're already maximizing what this could possibly be, and all our eyes are on it, and all our eyes are open, ready to see this happen. For Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua to get all the monies they can they deserve, and so I put my foot in my mouth on that one, because 12.5 seemed pretty fair a couple months back, but where they are today, if you want to call it marination, massaging, whatever you want to do, they're in a better position to negotiate for more money right now.
Right, but here's the deal, and we're going to take a break here in a second, but here's the deal, all right? It's an analogy. If you're a manager on a baseball team and you have your ace pitcher and you're ready to play the most important game or series of the season, and you say, oh, well, let me try and set this up. Let me put my second best pitcher in, and then I'll shut the door down when I in the second game, and I'll put my best pitcher in, and we'll go off to glory. Here's the problem. You got to win the first game to get to the second game. And if the guy doesn't put the best pitcher in for the first time, he may not have the opportunity to play the second game. And listen, boys and girls, that is what Deontay Wilder is gambling with. If he doesn't make this move, and he can cry that AJ is scared and all he wants, but the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, Deontay Wilder has never made more than $2.5 million in the ring, ever. Never. He made 2.1 or 2.2 against Luis Ortiz. AJ makes $20 million every time he steps in the ring, and he could fight the guy selling hot dogs in the stadium. So if I'm Deontay Wilder, it's time for him to sign the paper or risk losing a life-changing payday. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belt won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604. Listen.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. We were chatting about the latest development with Anthony Joshua against Deontay Wilder, at least according to Deontay Wilder and his communication vehicle of choice, which is social media, which I don't believe anything should be negotiated in social media. I mean, people can promote it in social media, he said, she said, but another one that's doing the same type of, or taking the same type of approach is Oscar De La Hoya. You remember Oscar De La Hoya, right? He's the guy that wears the fishnet stockings and, has totally lost.
Did he really do that?
Yes, he did. And he admitted that, by the way. And, I've lost a lot of respect for him and Canelo. And we talked about this yesterday. The simple fact that, in lieu of what has happened with Canelo and the performance-enhancing drug use, et cetera, and the fact that Triple G had always taken the high road. He did, for the first time, get a little ticked off at the situation, and rightfully so. But what really bothered me was the way Oscar returned the fire, so to speak, making it seem like it was actually ridiculous that the fans, and a majority of the fans, have felt that it was outrageous that he was downplaying it. And it doesn't get any better because apparently Oscar De La Hoya is playing hardball with Triple G. Triple G has demanded that he wants a 50-50 split for this fight in September, which I personally think he deserves. Oscar says no. In lieu of everything that's happened, all right, in lieu of everything that's happened, the delay of the fight, the suspension of Canelo, which, by the way, he's still on, the fact that he's never been tested since he's enrolled in VADA, okay, and all of those things, Oscar De La Hoya is saying, take the 65-35 split that we agreed to the last fight, that didn't happen, by the way, or leave it. And he is threatening to go ahead and try to make a fight with Danny Jacobs, Jermell Charlo, or in his own words, Billy Joe Saunders. So I guess Oscar De La Hoya let his desire of fishnets get in the way of his spelling, because hey Oscar, it's Saunders, not Sounders. But here's the thing. I think that, first of all, Daniel Jacobs, Charlo, or even Sounders,
very dangerous fights for him.
Well, the point is that any one of those three, including, and Spike O'Sullivan was another one, including any one of those would accept the fight, okay, because it would be a huge fight. So in a way, Oscar has some juice here in terms of getting Canelo a fight. It boils down to Triple G and how he wants to handle this. If I'm Triple G, I don't take it, man, and I force Oscar's hand. Let him pick another fight. Like you just said, Daniel Jacobs is not an easy fight. If he's saying that Triple G is big, Daniel Jacobs is a monster compared to Triple G. So and Daniel Jacobs poses some other issues for Canelo. And Charlo's a big guy. He's not tested. He might be the safest. Billy Joe Saunders, he might even be. I don't know. But the truth of the matter is,
I see all three a potential mistake for him at this time. Well, I could see all three beating him.
Fine, but well, first of all, we can't keep putting Billy Joe Saunders.
No,
we can't keep saying how great he is, because he had that one great fight against a stationary target. You want to see a guy who has really lived through the comments and negativity and everything else. You have to give Daniel Jacobs the credit. I was one that said, "Hey, look at his resume. He's fought nobody. The only guy that he ever fought, he got knocked out."
I was down on him too. No, I didn't think he was going to perform the way he did. I thought he was a club fighter prior to that fight.
But I'm just saying that when you looked at his resume, he had the one good name on it, and he got knocked out. Since then, he's fought some tough guys, and he seems to get better and better. So I think that, there's a guy that has climbed the ladder, and he's a legitimate opponent for anybody in the middleweight division. So, if he ends up getting the call and he ends up accepting the fight, he's no easy out for Canelo. I think Canelo may be able to beat a Saunders. Charlo is untested, so maybe that's a safe fight. But that's not my point. My point has nothing to do with who can win or anything like that. My point is that they're not going to make as much money. They're not going to do as well. I don't think that the demand from most boxing fans wants to. First of all, I'm telling you right now that the demand for even the rematch is slipping. The approach that Oscar is taking, Sal, is hurting them. The interest level, as much as the interest level for Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua is at least maintaining its numbers, the interest level for the rematch between Triple G and Canelo are decreasing. And that is what the greed is risking. These guys have to know when to say when, don't you think?
Well, of course they do, and like I said, they're going to continue to push this envelope, and they'll push it right off the table. And I think that they really should buckle down and hammer it out. And let's look at it this way. I mean, Triple G is a multi-belt world champion, and with that being said, he deserves the respect and the money that's going to go with this. And in fact, that first fight that I thought he had won, we've been teased all along. We're going to pick it up in the 13th round. Well, let's see them do that, because I still believe that Triple G will beat Canelo Alvarez. and he deserves his just due. He deserves his purse. He deserves to not be looked at as just an opponent that Canelo is going to go in and have his way with all the negotiations. It's not fair.
I saw this comment. I got some emails we're going to read later, and I got to take a break. We got Larry scheduled to come on, but I saw this comment on one of our boards, and basically it said this: "Hey, Billy C, be consistent. When it's AJ and Wilder, AJ should be afforded every benefit because he's the A-side star. But Triple G asking for a 50-50 split, that's not too much? I'm not a fan of either Canelo or Triple G, but Canelo is the common denominator that makes it a big pay-per-view fight, not Triple G. Canelo, for love or hate, puts the butts in the seats in America. He's the AJ of the United States." I found that a very interesting comment.
Very interesting. And I agree.
Do you agree?
No, I agree. It's a very interesting. Do I agree that Canelo Alvarez is the AJ of the United States? I think it's a pretty hefty analogy. I don't know if I would go that far to say that. I don't know that he is the household name in the United States, meaning Canelo Alvarez, as much as AJ is a household name in the UK. I can assure you that is not the case.
Well, Canelo is a big name, obviously, in Mexico. In Mexico. And for well, most people know who Canelo is. I mean, let's face it, he's on commercials and stuff like that. But to suggest that Triple G isn't a draw, I always laugh when people say that, because this is a guy that everyone keeps saying he's not the draw, he's not a draw, he's not a draw, but yet he sells out wherever he goes. He doesn't have the pay-per-view numbers. Okay, well, he hasn't had the dance partners that Canelo has. Show me Canelo pay-per-view numbers when he fought a guy that wasn't named Triple G or wasn't named Floyd Mayweather. The truth of the matter is in order to be successful in pay-per-view or anything in the fight game, is to have the right dance partner. I disagree. I think that Canelo has lost some of his support, at least in the States. I don't think that a fighter that gets popped for steroid use, that gets slapped on the wrist. We just saw Eric Molina get sentenced 2 years for steroid use. Canelo gets 6 months, and he's able to take a vacation, have some corrective surgery done. All of these things. It's almost like he's glad it happened. Not even man enough to show up to his hearing in Vegas. And yet we're supposed to let all of that slide and still put him on the pedestal as the guy who's calling all the shots. I strongly disagree. I think that he should be held accountable for something. And if that something means the split has to be changed, then that's some type of a victory for Triple G that I think he deserves, Sal.
No, I follow what you're saying, and I don't disagree. And I also would like to know those numbers of pay-per-view when Canelo Alvarez didn't fight a Triple G or a Floyd Mayweather or somebody big, because I do not think they were as large as he may suggest his own name might be recognized. No fault of his own. I'm just saying, you made a good comment. It's the right dance partner, and Triple G and Canelo Alvarez make the dance worth watching.
There's no question about that, my man. Listen, go drink some coffee, use the toilet. We are going to kick you to the curb for a little bit, and we are going to go get Larry Hazzard on the phone. So Sal will be back later. For the rest of you, we'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
This is important news for women using birth.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. She sells the Billy C Show. All right, show. Must have had too much cream in my coffee today. Joining me right now is Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazzard. Bail me out, Larry. What's going on, brother?
What's up, Billy? What's happening, man?
Not much. You know, today, I got a couple of things to talk to you about, and I want to start off with, social media has, and the internet and all the technology has really changed our lives, and very rapidly, so much I don't even think people realize it. But one thing that really bothers me is I understand that social media, is used a little bit for promotion. I'm going to do this to you, and it gives fighters a chance to, go out there and do what they used to just be able to do at press conferences and stuff, for weeks and even months leading up to a fight. And I'm okay with that. But what I'm not okay with is when the powers that be start using it as a vehicle for negotiation. And it seems like that has quickly become the norm. And it bothers me because, you're getting... I don't know about you, Larry, but and for you in your position, I know that you got to see a legitimate contract. You got to see something on paper. You're not going to accept a tweet from somebody saying, hey, Larry, we want to put this fight on in New Jersey. Is it okay? You're going to be like, hey, man, follow the proper channels. What's your thoughts on these fighters and promoters and managers that use social media to try to negotiate fights? And of course, I'm talking about, the two big fights that is happening through social media right now. The Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder fight and the rematch between Triple G and Canelo.
Well, Billy, it's like everything else. It's free. It's a free vehicle to be able to say what's on your mind, put your business out there in the public, garner support for your cause. It's free advertisement. You can be on there 24 hours a day, fighting for your particular interests. Unlike, when there was no social media, you have to try to get someone to write an article about it, a newspaper article, or whatever. So what it has done, it it's another tool, another vehicle to be used for the individual cause, and certainly sports, not just boxing, and it'll be used for whatever they feel, the individual feels, how it would help. It doesn't surprise me. Now they're negotiating, talking back and forth, who's doing what. It's just, to me, it's just another tool, man, to, put out there to garner support for your side or whatever. It's like everything else in society, man. Whatever you feel is going to be helpful to your cause, that's it. So now we got social media. I mean, when you look at some of the ridiculous stuff that you see on Facebook and all this other stuff, it's just crazy. People putting their personal business on Facebook for the world to see. So it's no different in sports. That's all. That's the way. Now you have your own personal PR firm, so to speak. Right at your fingertips.
Well, when it's used like that, PR, and I agree with you, by the way. Just a side note, people are so stupid. They put up on Facebook, "Hey, we're going away on vacation. Yeah, we're going here. We're going there." And then you say to yourself, the first thing that pops in my mind is, why are you telling everyone you're not going to be home? Then you have burglarsareus.com. Hey, man, they're not going to be home for the next 2 weeks. They're going to be in Disney, But anyway, I agree with you 100% about using it as a promotional vehicle for free, and the amount of eyes and ears that can get it, and not only that, but you actually are in a position to increase interest, etc., etc. But my point is, where I feel that the line should be drawn is when the negotiation is brought out onto social media. Like, for example, this whole both of these fights. Let's start off with the heavyweight fight, the Anthony Joshua Deontay Wilder fight. Now, the whole way that Deontay Wilder and this $50 million offer was made, I thought was a complete joke, fabrication, PR move. But hey, it worked, okay? It worked. But never in a million years would anybody in their right mind that has been in any kind of business, forget boxing business, any kind of business, look at a tweet or a YouTube video and expect that to be a legitimate, bona fide offer to do something, whether it fight or whatever else. And that's exactly what they spun that to be. And in addition to that, they've also gotten the support of the fans of, obviously the Deontay Wilder fans that are saying those exact things. Whoa, Wilder offered him $50 million and he's scared, he won't take it. What kind of crap is that? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, wait a minute. That was an email. That was a social media. That was a YouTube video that came from a fighter that doesn't even negotiate the deals, and yet the public perception is that there was a bona fide, legit deal on the table, and now because of that method, team AJ has to respond. And I like the fact that they're responding and the communication is open, but I just don't like the fact that it was used as a contract negotiator. That's my point. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, see, that shows you how gullible the public is. And again, it's being used in a way that's not upfront, not sincere, knowing that, and of course, they're taking advantage of the public, for lack of a better term, the public ignorance, the lack of knowledge of the public. So now what happens? You get all these Deontay Wilder fans, okay? Now they're championing his cause, okay, based on what could be fake information that's not authentic, because that's not the way to negotiate. So, he's saying anything that he feels is going to be favorable to his cause. And he knows that people are gullible, and they're going to jump on the bandwagon, and that's what's happening. And me personally, this deal should have already been set, especially with the, with the offer that was already presented to Wilder that we talked about some time back. I still think that he's being ill-advised by, holding out with all this nonsense. That's the fight that everybody wants to see, okay? And if he truly wants to fight, I'm sure Joshua wants that fight. Go ahead and sign the contract and let's get it on, man. You guys can do this 2 or 3 times, and you can walk away. You're going to laugh all the way to the bank then. Put that on social media,
Here's the thing. First of all, I made a statement earlier that if Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, George Foreman, that whole class of fighters were fighting today, could you imagine the money that they would be making? I mean, if a Deontay Wilder and an Anthony Joshua, no disrespect to either one of these guys, are demanding the kind of dollars that we're hearing be tossed around, what would Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier bring? I can't even imagine. But let me read to you a quote that Deontay Wilder put out on social media yesterday. He says, if we have the fight, and by the way, another strange thing, I've always thought that, if it were me involved in the negotiations, I would be pushing for a 3-fight deal. I would push for the first fight being in England against, AJ against Deontay. The second fight would be against whoever they chose, not against each other. So, somebody would have lost, so somebody needed a win, somebody needed to stay busy. And then the third fight happened in the U.S., regardless of win, loss, or draw. That's what I would negotiate and have, and I would think that these guys, when all is said and done, would each be making $100 million over the course of those 3 fights. And you just can't make that kind of money. Obviously Floyd and Manny Pacquiao did, but you just can't make that kind of money for 3 fights. And so that was my initial idea to begin with. Team Wilder doesn't want more than 1 fight. The one thing that I keep hearing is that they're looking for 1 fight. And Wilder said this, and I quote, if we have the fight in England, it's going to be in September. But if the fight takes place in America, then it's going to be November. We're still in negotiation, so I don't have a time frame on it yet. But I want to let everybody know that this fight's going to happen if they're still serious. We've been serious this whole way. Joshua said he wanted $50 million and he would sign tomorrow. We did that. We offered him $50 million and he didn't take it. So that shows you the character of him or his team. I think Joshua really wants to fight, but I don't think his team wants to risk what they've invested in him. Their investment is about to go, and they know it. To me, this is just throwing or fanning the fire of non-substantial negotiation terms. Again, they throw the $50 million that we both agree was kind of just a ploy, and then you insinuate that he doesn't really want the fight when we all know he does, and yet the public, the naive public is going to look at this as AJ is scared to fight. What's your thoughts?
No, you're right. Well, first off, Wilder needs to hire you to do some of his negotiating, because what your plan certainly makes a lot of sense. I think that this is all a bunch of BS on the part of in terms of AJ not wanting the fight. I think that AJ wants this fight in the worst way, because he really, and I'm not so sure. See, this is what really gets me about this whole thing on Wilder's side. I'm not so sure that Joshua could beat Wilder now, based on the history to this far, especially with Wilder's last performance. I'm not so sure that Joshua could beat him based on Joshua's last performance. And I really think that Wilder is being led down the wrong path with this whole situation. And I don't know who's doing this negotiating, what they're telling him or whatever. But I think that he's really missing the boat here, And the longer this thing goes, it's going to lose its steam at some point, Billy.
I agree. And just like I'm going to talk to you about the other fight in a minute, which has lost its steam, the only reason why Anthony Joshua against Deontay Wilder hasn't lost steam, or at least as much, is because it's a heavyweight fight. And the demand is so much there. And I agree with you, that the fight is much more interesting now. And I also agree that, Sal had made this statement earlier, but I agree with him that maybe we jumped the gun a little too much when all of us thought that he should have jumped on $12.5 million, because now it seems that Deontay could make substantially more. But again, when are you going to let the greed stop? The greed can be pushed, the envelope of greed can be pushed just so far. And like I said, if he was smart, he would be looking at a 3-fight deal, 2 of the fights against AJ, and he's financially set, win, lose, or draw. And that's how the verbiage of the contract should be. The one other part of this deal that people keep forgetting, Larry, is that the guys that are actually going to be doing the contracts or signing the contracts or whatever, his management team haven't said a word. Shelley Finkel, Al Heyman, even Lou DiBella, who's technically his promoter, none of those guys have said anything. The only verbiage we've heard comes from Deontay Wilder or Eddie Hearn. Now, Anthony Joshua has made some statements about his desire for the fight, etc., but you never hear him say, specifics of the contract like you hear Deontay. So I agree that Deontay is being ill-advised. It's time to sign, really. I mean, he won the battle. He's getting more than 12.5. He goes over there, and like you said, he's got more people behind him now. Go over there, beat AJ, and then the rest is going to just fall into place like a set of dominoes, man.
Of course. And I don't know if I totally agree that, the first deal that was put on the table, okay, and we both agreed that, 3 fights out of that, I mean, to me, that was a great deal. Sometimes greed could be your shortcoming. And there's always the quest for more money, Billy. We could hold out, we could do this. You're going to always have that. But you got to strike while the iron is hot, okay? And I feel that this thing is going to continue. If it continue this way, that Deontay Wilder is going to come up on the short end, okay, of this whole thing because of this greed factor. I really think that he's being ill-advised, as a heavyweight. And, as time goes by, there's the erosion of skills, everything. Everything changes as time goes on. And so I think he's really missing the boat here, man. I really do.
Yeah, it's time. And, they pushed it far enough. The people are screaming for it. And now it's gone so far that when they announce that they're each fighting someone else, it's going to be counterproductive for them. It's actually going to hurt them. But let's jump into the other one. The Canelo Triple G rematch. Oscar De La Hoya is holding strong. Triple G decides that, he wants a renegotiation, and he's asking for a 50-50 split for the rematch. And you know what? I agree with Triple G. I think that, number one, he won the first fight. I thought he won hands down, okay? It was an entertaining fight, but I thought he won the fight. Then in lieu of all of the issues that took place with Canelo, testing positive, et cetera, and then Oscar De La Hoya trying to spin it like everybody's, getting all upset over Canelo, which he said was ridiculous, which I think is not ridiculous because you're talking about performance-enhancing drug use, which, we all know about the risks there for the opponent, and the fact that he gets a slap on the wrist. He gets a 6-month suspension. Eric Molina just got a 2-year suspension for PED use. Canelo gets a 6-month, and they're negotiating for the rematch already. They're already planning. He's not even out of suspension yet. And Oscar De La Hoya said, hey, this is our final offer, 65-35 split, which is what we agreed on the first fight. And if he doesn't do it, then we're not going to fight Triple G. We'll take Daniel Jacobs. We'll take Charlo. We'll take Sanders. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, I think Triple G deserves it, and I think that Canelo is making a mistake because I know a lot of people that have lost a lot of respect for Canelo, and they're not even interested in this fight, to be honest with you.
Well, I've pretty much lost interest in this Canelo Triple G fight. You see how they've sidetracked and switched. I congratulate Oscar. He's done a great job on what do they call it? Is that what they call a bait and switch or whatever? I think he's done a great job. It's almost, you almost forgot that it was Canelo who came up dirty.
That's my point, Larry. I mean, I think it's appalling that he's trying to twist it and make Canelo the victim. I don't think it's working. I think he's trying, but I think most people realize that no, Triple G is the victim. And I tell you, it bothers me. I've lost respect for Canelo and Oscar De La Hoya because they're trying to spin it like that.
Yeah, well, they're gonna spin. They can keep spinning, and in the end, everybody can end up losing. Everybody becomes a loser because people lose interest after a certain amount of time, and if I were Triple G, I would just move on. I wouldn't. Triple G, time is running out on him, and there's still a few other good fights out there for him, and so that's what you have to do at some point, because the way it's going, they're really not moving in a positive direction with this whole thing, and the way that Oscar is going about it, he seems to be set. In his way, it's going to be my way or no way. So I think Triple G should start looking elsewhere.
Let me ask you this: if Oscar De La Hoya holds strong, which I think he's making some really bad business moves. He's been consistently making bad business moves since Richard Schaefer was fired or whatever. He's not that guy. And he's trying to do it, and he's not doing it well. But let's assume that he holds strong. He says it's my way or the highway, and they choose the highway. And now Oscar De La Hoya sets up a fight with Canelo against the names he's mentioning, either Daniel Jacobs, Jermell Charlo, Billy Joe Saunders, and he's even mentioned Spike O'Sullivan. Do you think that they would do similar numbers with any of those opponents? Now, don't get me wrong. I like the Daniel Jacobs matchup and stuff like that, but do you think that people would buy that fight as many would buy the Triple G rematch, or do you think that the interest is lost on Triple G and people are going to be interested in another fight of Canelo, or are they losing interest in Canelo?
Well, I almost said all of the above, but let me tell you, I still think that right now, I still think that you would be able to sell the Triple G Canelo rematch if you stop bull crapping around and sign it and get it going, as opposed to some of these other opponents. I still think that that's the bigger fight. Okay, with the PR that could be done, with the drama that was raised in the first fight, all of these elements I think would make for a bigger Canelo Triple G rematch, as opposed to a Daniel Jacobs or this some of these other fighters. I like Jacobs, okay? I like Jacobs' chances against Canelo. But I still don't feel that would be a bigger fight than the rematch for Canelo and Triple G right at this particular juncture, because there's still life. There's still life there. But if I were Oscar, I wouldn't push it too far, because it could lose. Boxing fans are funny. 1 minute they're real hot for a fight, and as time goes on, they lose interest, and you lose out in the end. But I still think that if Oscar was to change up a little bit and just call it like it is and go ahead on and make this fight, I still think that there's a good opportunity there and a chance that they can still do good at the box office.
I agree with you there, and but I look at it like this. Oscar De La Hoya, you could make the analogy that he's a bully on the playground, all right? And he's saying to everybody, 65-30 split, 65-35 split, otherwise we're going somewhere else. And like the bully on the playground, it's, I want your lunch money, I want this. Somebody punches that bully in the face and doesn't give up the lunch money, all of a sudden, nobody's giving up lunch money anymore. The bully was top.
Oscar, not to cut you off, Billy, but Oscar's making it appear as though Triple G needs Canelo.
Well, my point is that if he goes back now, if he said he's not going to accept less than 65-35, now all of a sudden, see what Oscar doesn't realize he's doing by publicizing these parts of a contract. Again, going back to what I said, where you're using social media as a negotiation tool. Now he's ruining his own bargaining power for the future. If he fails and it ends up being 50-50, or even if it ends up being 60-40, people are going to know, hey, listen, when Oscar says this is your last offer, doesn't mean it's your last offer. He's the bully on the playground that's about to get punched in the face. And the truth of the matter is it's a stupid business move. And I just don't understand it. And one last thing I want to mention real quick. I know I got to go, but throughout the whole thing with Canelo and Triple G, the first fight and everything else, the lead up to the first fight. Remember, we had to wait years for the first fight, okay? The big argument was always, Canelo's too small, Triple G's such a big guy, blah, 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 blah. Well, it turns out Triple G is not a big middleweight. He's actually a small middleweight. The names that he's mentioning that he wants to take instead of Triple G, Daniel Jacobs, Charlo, and Billy Joe Saunders, they're big middleweights. These are Iran Barkley-sized middleweights, And if Canelo thought that Triple G was a big middleweight, I would be shocked if they would prefer to fight a bigger guy than him. Don't you think?
I would think so.
So I don't know, man. I think they're shooting themselves in the foot, brother.
Well, we'll see.
Is it going to be made? Do you think they're going to make it or what?
I think so.
Me too. I think we're going to hear the announcement sooner than later, because they're going to want to start promoting it and everything else, because the more it drags out, it's going to be counterproductive. Listen, these two fights, Triple G Canelo rematch and Deontay Wilder Anthony Joshua, they do not need marination. As a matter of fact, the dragging out is hurting them, I believe.
They're naturals, and I think Oscar actually sees the larger picture. I think they're going to make it.
Well, he's getting punched in the face then if he settles for less than 65-35. He's going to ruin his negotiation power forever after this. You watch, my man. You watch. Right. But anyway, Larry, you have yourself a great weekend, and we'll be chatting next week.
Okay, Billy. You too.
All right, man. Thank you. Bye-bye. That's Larry Hazzard, Boxing Hall of Famer, New Jersey boxing commissioner, and a damn straight-up guy. So, I love talking to Larry because Larry knows his you-know-what. And, sometimes I put him on the spot asking him things that he, in his position, maybe he can't answer, but he kind of does, read between the lines. We'll be back with the blast from the past this week, William Choppy. So don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free. Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us, and it's that time again. It's time for the Blast from the Past, our longest running segment. This show is in its 15th year, and the Blast from the Past is, I think, 13. I think 13, may even be 14. I got to check with Jeremy on that. But this week's Blast from the Past is being brought to us in part by KOFantasyBoxing.com. Check it out. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Sign up today. And it's also being brought to us in part by the Title Bout Championship computer game, the same game that we have been offering as a prize for our trivia question, and the same game that my man, Alex Papali, uses to put the Blast from the Past guy against the current champions. Who's the guy this week? Former world champion William Joppy. And joining us is that guy that's going to tell us all about William Joppy, is Alex Papali. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
I'm doing well, my man. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty good. We got a good connection today. It sounds pretty good.
That was weird last week, man. I hate to do that, especially to you, because I don't want you to beat me up or nothing like that. But it was getting tough. It's like what But
I hear you. It's weird. I did an update last night, and I don't know. It just seems crystal clear right now.
Oh no, it's good. It's good. Tell us about William Joppy. Why are you drinking the coffee? Because and for his next trick, he's going to tell us about William Joppy while he's sipping his coffee. But I did the same thing to Sal today. You guys, the camera's on both of you. I was like, okay, so what do you think? And Sal takes a sip of coffee. He's like, uh-oh, this is going to be a long one. But anyway, so tell us about this guy.
William Joppy, yeah, he was born William Terrell Joppy, born September 11th, 1970. He is 5 foot 9 inches tall, and he fought at middleweight, 160 pounds. He was born in Silver Spring, Maryland. Did I say September 11th, 1970? He was the second of 3 kids, born to Anita Brannison and William Aubrey Joppy.
Wait a second. Did you say of only 3 kids? Usually we're talking about fighters. He was one of 17 kids, and it's like they had to fight their way to the bathroom. They had to fight for that one hamburger they were splitting, but anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, he had he started out with like a middle class suburban existence, but it sort of came apart at 10 when his parents got divorced, and he went back and forth between the 2 parents, also with a grandmother. And at 14 was when he first went into a boxing gym. He went into the Montgomery Police Boys and Girls Club and began learning to box from a guy named Big Ray Hagan, who was a former sparring partner for Ali. And but in high school, he was into all other sports. He did track, he did football, things like that. And it wasn't, he had gotten into some trouble and ended up in a juvenile detention. And that's where he ended up. He spent 18 months in juvenile detention, and that's where he ended up really picking up a lot of the boxing. When he came out, he started working out in some of the gyms that were connected to Sugar Ray Leonard, because of course Sugar Ray Leonard came up through Palmer Park, Maryland. So it wasn't. It was like all in that similar area. And this was an interesting time for the D.C. area in the 90s, because they did have several top fighters. They had Mark II Sharp Johnson. They had Joppy. There were some other guys that were, known around, that were, lurking around the professional rankings, that were all from this area. And he really got a late start into boxing. So his first amateur fight, he was 19 or 20, and he ended up getting, put on the Olympic auxiliary team, and but he decided to turn pro, and so his first pro fight, he was like 20 years old. So he definitely got a late start, as opposed to a lot of the other guys that we see in this sport.
The thing about William Joppy, choosing to turn pro, he didn't exactly get an easy, beginning of his career. I mean, he was fighting some experience, with the exception of the first 4 fights, where he fought, guys with similar record, either pro debut guys or, 1 or 2 fights. He started fighting extremely experienced guys from his 5th fight on. And, he was, before long, he was fighting contenders pretty quickly. I mean, the first guy that comes to mind 2 years after he turned pro was Joe Quinn Velasquez, who was had 20 wins, 9 losses, and a draw. And he forced a 10-round fight. Rodney Tooney was his next fight after that, picked up one of his draws. And then 2 fights after that, he's fighting for a world title, which he won. So I mean, and then from that point on, something that doesn't happen today, Alex. William Joppy fought all of the top contenders that were available to him, and as his career went on, he was fighting some big names. But you got to mention the Julio Cesar Green trilogy first. He fought that guy 3 times, winning 2 of them, all 3 of the fights being for world titles.
Yeah, and that first fight really had a little bit of everything. It was, you're right. I mean, he fought everyone that was available in the division. For a while, it took some time before he faced Hopkins. But of course, then there was the middleweight tournament that Don King created, that Tito Trinidad was in, and Hopkins, and Keith Holmes, and William Joppy, and Hopkins ends up winning that. But then Joppy and Hopkins faced each other a couple years later. So, yeah, in terms of anybody who's anyone at 160 pounds in the 90s, Joppy faced them. In terms of, we always do this, like look at their Hall of Fame credentials. In terms of Hall of Famers he's faced, there's 3 of them. One was Roberto Duran. I'm sorry about that. The other 2 were Bernard Hopkins and Felix Trinidad. Now, of course, he had 1 win and 2 losses against those guys. But we've seen guys with other credentials, similar credentials, get in, and some who don't. But if you think about it, I mean, he all but retired Roberto Duran. He brutalized him. I don't believe it wasn't Duran's last fight. Hard to believe, because if you watch it, Duran gets totally beat up. Joppy stops him in 3. That was his first title defense after beating Green in the rematch. Yeah, against Julio Cesar Green, it was just, the fight was in, it was very much, he felt that it was sort of a bad decision. It was a close fight. Joppy had him down several times, or he had him down twice in the 3rd round, and he couldn't put him away. And he claimed to have broke his hand in the fight. End up losing a decision, but of course they faced each other again, and then they faced each other a 3rd time, just because it seemed like there was just not, I don't know, it just seemed like he was running out of opponents. When he fought Julio Cesar Green the 3rd time, he stopped him. He's a very talented fighter, very speedy boxer. He could hit pretty hard, and that was the thing. When he faced Tito Trinidad, he was really hoping that was going to be his breakout fight, that he would, show Tito, hey, this is what it really is at 160 pounds. It was a good fight, a real slug out, but Trinidad leveled him and took him out in 5. And in some ways, he was never really the same after that fight. But one thing that you do have to sort of, little caveat, the Trinidad fans aren't going to like this, but one thing to keep in mind is, remember, it was the next fight that Naseem Richardson noticed the way Tito was wrapping his hands was illegal. It was almost as if he was putting a cast, the way he was doing the wraps, and they made him change it for the fight with Hopkins. So the question was, did he do that for his other fights? And Joppy always felt like, he was getting hit with bricks. So I don't know. That's just one of those things you could throw into the, all-time boxing controversies.
Well, similar to what happened with Antonio Margarito and Shane Mosley. But, you bring up something about the Hall of Fame, and we always end up with this discussion. And nobody knows what's going on in the mind of Mr. Brophy and how people get in, and et cetera, et cetera. And you mentioned how many Hall of Famers he fought, and he only beat 1. But, I think what has to be taken in, first of all, 7 fighters that he fought retired after losing to William Joppy. So, I mean, that's ending the careers of some, big names. But the truth of the matter is when you look at the guys that he fought when he fought them and the level that they were at the time, that has to be taken in consideration when you're looking at Hall of Fame. And I'll give you an example. Jonathan Reed, he fought Jonathan Reed in 2000. Jonathan Reed was undefeated, 27-0. This was a guy that was regarded as like the next best thing. He wasn't supposed to really win that fight. They thought that Jonathan Reed would become a world champion in this fight. And obviously, William Joppy had different ideas. Now, I get the 2 Reeds mixed up. Jonathan Reed was the one with that weird eye, right? With that lazy eye, right?
No, and as a matter of fact, one of the photos I saw, they looked similar. And I was like, wait a minute.
Which was the one? Who had
David Reed.
Oh, okay, all right. He had that, which I never, and that prevented him. But Jonathan Reed was 27-0. You know, when he fought Felix Trinidad hadn't been beaten. He comes back, fights after he loses the title to Trinidad. He comes back and fights an undefeated 32-0 Howard Eastman. I mean, come on, you know, and then he gets another big fight in Japan, wins that, and then fights Bernard Hopkins. You know, so I mean, and then Jermaine Taylor after that. I mean, come on, you know, he was fighting some tough guys. The other interesting thing was that, you know, really his last fights, his career was over. You know, his last big win, I guess, over a name was Virgil McClendon, and he ended McClendon's career. That was in 2007. He won a fight after that, but his last won one fight. He lost two of them by knockout, and he had the one draw. But the one interesting thing that I forgot all about, Alex, was in 2011. Now, that's 7 years ago. He fought Bebop.
He did go out, you know, on a high note with a win. He did survive a horrible car accident in June of 1999. I guess he was on his way to they were leaving. They completed a workout at Round One Gym when his van was broadsided by a car and literally ripped in half. The next thing Joppy knew, he was on a stretcher at Prince George's Medical Center where he was treated for facial lacerations and a hairline fracture in his neck. He had been in training for a February 6th fight against Darren Oba of Australia when the accident occurred. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a hairline fracture in his neck in 99. That was before some of his biggest fights of his career. So yeah, this guy is sort of a bit of a forgotten champion, and I think part of it is because of the way he went out against Trinidad, and there was nothing to be ashamed about that. I mean, he did get blown out, but it was a hell of a fight while it lasted, and he got caught early, you know, and you get caught early against Felix Trinidad. I mean, you kind of can't get your legs back if you get caught by him. He was a monstrous puncher, and they never had a rematch. So, you know, I'm sure that's one of the things. He's probably a little bit like Fernando Vargas in that, you know, that Trinidad. But I do think that, you know, he's a born again Christian. He lost a daughter. This is just absolutely tragic, and it was before the Bernard Hopkins fight. He lost a 5-week-old daughter from what sounds like it was a child abuse or an accident, horrible accident, but it was ruled a homicide by police. His 5-week-old daughter, I guess, either fell or was struck. She Vashti was her name, and they had to take her off life support. She was in the hand. She was being handled by a 13-year-old babysitter. So it's sort of unclear as to what happened and whether or not I don't see that there was ever any charges. But the death was ruled a homicide. You know, from head trauma. So I mean, that's just a horrible thing when a parent has to you know, survives their child. But you know, like I said, he's a born again Christian. He started an organization that they do have a website and stuff called Breakfast with Boxers, where they do benefits for homeless people in the DC area. And they do, you know, it has a connection to boxing where they do some training as well as fight exhibitions, and they help feed the homeless. So he seems like a pretty noble guy. He's really, you know, if you want to look for like drugs and womanizing, you're not going to find that kind of stuff in his career. But yeah, I mean, I think he is one of the guys, one of the middleweights of the 90s who he was definitely one of the top guys, that's for sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, the way this sport goes, if you're not arrested or womanizing or involved in drugs, people forget about you, But and it's crazy. I mean, here's a guy that fought 16 world title fights, and by the way, he was 11-5 in those fights. So, I don't know. I don't get the whole Hall of Fame thing, but. He had some big wins against big fighters, was definitely one of the top middleweights of his time, and it's a shame that people already forget him. But anyway,
as far as I know, I'm not sure if he ever completed it, but I see a 2013 article. This was in the Washington Times. The sports writer there bumped into him when he was in training for the New York Marathon. So he's somebody who loved road work and loved it enough to want to do it for 26 miles. So I don't know if he actually did compete in marathons, but he was in training for the New York Marathon in 2013.
Actually, William Joppy does all my road work for me. That's how I stay in great shape. But how did he do in title bout, brother?
It was sort of weird, the results, because I put him in against Golovkin and Canelo, the two top guys at middleweight. Against Golovkin, he did better. The first time they fought, Golovkin stops him, actually. It was Joppy was down 3 times. It was a very close fight, though. However, the fight was even on 2 of the cards, but Joppy was down 3 times in round 10, and Golovkin stopped him at 126 of the round. When they fight 100 times, Joppy wins 33. He loses 66. They have 1 draw, and he knocked Triple G out 20 times. Of the 66 victories, Golovkin scored 57 knockouts. Then when he fought Canelo, the first time they fought, Canelo beat him by unanimous decision. He had Joppy down in the 10th and the 11th, and the scores were really lopsided. 119-107 twice, and 119-108. When they fight 100 times, I guess the game likes Canelo's boxing ability. Joppy only wins 5. Canelo wins 91. They draw 4 times, and Joppy was able to stop Cinnamon 3 times. In his 91 KOs, Alvarez scored 42. In his 91 victories, Alvarez scored 42 knockouts.
That's probably the most surprising title bout result I've ever heard. And I'm not suggesting that William Joppy was the greatest thing ever to put on a pair of gloves. But I don't think Canelo's the greatest thing to ever put on a pair of gloves. Yes, he's popular. Yes, he's a fan fave and all of that. But, really when you look at his, what has he done to justify? I mean, if we were putting, Sugar Ray Leonard in, or you're putting Marvin Hagler in there against him or whatever, you could see a lopsided, these guys, have the proven pedigree. Canelo doesn't yet. There's still a lot of questions out for Canelo. And the first one is Triple G, but anyway, great job on that. We're going to get your thoughts on something else in a minute here, but first and foremost, William Joppy, our blast from the past today, former world middleweight champion. He also challenged for a super middleweight title and a light heavyweight title, came up short. He had a career record of 40 wins, 30 by knockout. He lost 7 times, in which he was only stopped 3. He had 2 draws. He fought 282 rounds as a pro with a 61% knockout ratio. William Joppy, great job as usual. Alex, I wanted to get your thoughts on our topics real quick before we let you go. Today, we've been talking about, and this is kind of up your alley, I think, technology and how much it's changed. And, from one side, I like social media, and I like that it's able to be used as a tool for communication and even promotion. But when it comes to negotiating contracts, I'm totally against it, and I can't believe that so many fans believe everything they see that comes out, and specifically I'm talking about the two biggest fights in the sport today that everyone wants to see, or at least most people want to see. Obviously, Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder in the heavyweight division, and then the middleweight division featuring a rematch between Triple G and Canelo. What's your thoughts?
I can't believe the amount of discussion that's been going on online about the negotiations about this fight. To me, it's pretty uninteresting. I mean, I just want to see them fight, and I think most boxing fans do too. But like you said, in this strange reality we live in now where social media is so important, and it seems like everyone has an opinion on how they split the purse. And, they're willing to fight tooth and claw over it. And I don't know. I've been watching boxing since 1985 and loving boxing since 1985. And I can't remember ever sort of taking sides in a negotiation. The side I've always been on is I want to see the fight, is get it done. So it's sort of strange to me to see the way people, but I guess that's the nature of social media. It's a binary world. Everyone's choosing sides and bashing the other side. So that's really what it seems to be happening with the way people are defending De La Hoya, that yes, he's right, his fighter is the A side, and then people are defending Golovkin. No, so I don't know. I've never seen anything like it. But it doesn't surprise me. I mean, social media has created this strange world that we live in today. I don't know.
I have two points, and first and foremost, the Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. What amazes me about that fight and the way it's being handled is the only guy from Wilder's side that has said anything is Wilder. We haven't heard really from his so-called management, which is Shelley Finkel, Al Heyman, and on paper, Lou DiBella. And yet, there's fans that watch this social media-based video of an alleged $50 million offer and alleged being backed up, which, as far as I'm concerned, in any business, nothing is real until you have a contract. And even contracts sometimes aren't real. And then to hear the fans take the side, well, he's chicken. AJ's chicken. He was offered $50 million. They got the money. He's turning down $50 million. He's saying no. You got a guy that created an Instagram that made an offer, and even Shelley Finkel carried the charade as far as saying, well, all he's got to do is respond to the email before we send a contract. And I'm saying to myself, I've never heard such ridiculous, moves in the business. And then the other point with Canelo and Oscar De La Hoya with Triple G, Triple G, Oscar De La Hoya is trying to spin this as Canelo being the victim here, when this is a guy that was caught. He cheated, and he hasn't been held accountable. How do we justify a 6-month suspension when Eric Molina, last week, they handed him a 2-year suspension, and yet these guys are still negotiating, and Oscar De La Hoya is saying, well, all we're going to offer you is 65-35, and I think Triple G earned the bigger split, at least 60-40 or 50-50. What's your thoughts on those two issues that are being dragged out on social media by and Oscar De La Hoya, in his case, by him, who's the promoter, and then on the other side, as a fighter, doing the negotiation for a contract that really he's not doing anything with?
Yeah, it's bizarre. And I mean, if you're, as a fight fan, it's hard not to look at both of those fights as 50-50 fights. Granted, especially Canelo Golovkin, after what happened the last time, it was a draw. How can you not say, let's make it 50-50? And also, I think if you look at the attendance of Canelo's last few fights, they did the best when he was fighting Golovkin. So as much as Canelo is a draw, he's a big draw, when he fights somebody good. And Golovkin is going to put asses in the seats. So the idea that one of them should be making 65 and the other guy 35, that to me just seems outrageous. They fought once. We know how close it was. That's 50-50. Joshua Wilder, I could see that one be a little tougher only because Joshua has such a domestic marketing power. So it does make it seem like, he should kind of be in the driver's seat. But they're heavyweights, and America has always sort of loved the heavyweight division. So you think, well, maybe I don't know. I don't know. Whenever you have guys that are fighters that are, very talented like that everybody wants to see, to me, 50-50, there's nothing wrong with that. Why not 50-50 and then like a bonus to the winner? I don't know. Both those fights are fights that should be made, and it's sickening the way we're talking about the negotiations. Because to me, that's a business discussion. I got into boxing because I like boxing discussions.
Hey, I know you're an English major, but obviously you didn't do that well in math because a 50-50 split and then
hey, where would it come from?
Where'd the other percentage come from? But so maybe we'll just say, hey, for I think what Alex meant, boys and girls, was 40-40 and 20% for the winner. Okay, I'll cover your butt on that one, my friend.
Well, yes. Well, this world goes to 11.
Yeah, that's right. All right, my man. Lizzie, you did a great job, and we'll look forward to you next time. All right.
All right, Billy C, take care.
That's Alex Papali doing a great job. I'm taking a short break, and when we come back, we got a couple of emails. We got Sal, Rocky, Senecola. Don't go nowhere.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
Similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member who's in pain, get them my system today. Doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance...
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us. And back with us right now is my man Sal Rocky Senecola. And Sal, we got a couple of emails. You ready to roll?
I am ready to roll, my friend.
First one's from Coach. Coach says, hey guys, concerning a subject mentioned on yesterday's show, it didn't take long for the hypocrite left to do its flip from saying it's freedom of speech for the at-work kneeling NFLers to become immediately outraged against Roseanne, a comedian, for a tweeted racist joke. By no means am I saying Roseanne was right, but you can't have it both ways. And where was the selective racist outrage when Money Mayweather said we're going to cook that yellow chump Pacquiao? Back to boxing. Okay. Yeah. Well, I can't stand. Let me just comment on that real quick. I can't stand the double standard. I can't stand it. Racism exists, unfortunately, for every color, race, creed, religion, etc. I've talked to people that have this illusion that an African American can't be racist, which is totally untrue. And the comment that Coach is referring to when Floyd said that about Manny Pacquiao, he was saying, "Yeah, we'll cook up some rice," blah 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 blah. That is a racist comment. But yet there's a double standard, and that's really the problem, Sal, in my opinion. If we want to try to curb racism, you have to understand that it exists on all levels, and you want to curb all the levels. You can't just say, "Oh, we want to work on it on one side, and everybody else has got to deal with it." I mean, don't you think?
No, exactly. It's got to be. There can't be a double standard. And there's got to be accountability and responsibility, and it's should be nothing that we need to bring into the forefront when it comes to any conversation or any level.
No, you're right. No, I agree. Anyway, he says back to boxing. He says, "What's your thoughts on the WBC Prez Suleiman showing their tilted tendencies, urging Triple G to accept Canelo's terms?" What makes me laugh about that is that Canelo said that he would never fight for the WBC again after he avoided Triple G, and Triple G had won the interim belt, and then the WBC subsequently made his interim belt the regular WBC world title. The people keep forgetting that Canelo dragged on the Triple G fight, the first one, for several years, and now the same thing. Personally, Sal, Canelo has lost some value. I don't care what anybody says, and I'm really disappointed in Canelo because I was a huge fan, and I was a huge fan of Oscar De La Hoya, and it's very hard to support the way that these guys are doing business. With Deontay Wilder, the reason why I give Deontay a pass, do I like that he uses social media? No, but the reason why I give Deontay a pass is because he's got nobody doing it for him. He's got to promote himself, so you got to give the guy a little wiggle room there. When it comes to Triple G and Oscar, Oscar's the promoter. So I'm sorry, I can't be supportive there.
No, and I understand, and like you said, poor Deontay Wilder, he doesn't have the accolades and the people touting the way they should. Like I said, Deontay Wilder should have been on talk shows, hosting big public affairs.
Yeah, but nothing for nothing. When you say you want to kill somebody in the ring, people.
But you know what? Can I tell you something? And like I said, I don't want you to think I'm always looking out or taking that side. But
which you are.
Okay, if this guy. Do you think I'm a fan of Deontay Wilder?
Just a wee little bit. You know what? Let me put it in perspective. I think you like Deontay Wilder almost as much as you like pizza.
I love pizza. I love Deontay Wilder. Well, let me tell you something. Had Deontay Wilder been given the recognition and the accolades and the promotion that his title and his accomplishments have literally earned or deserved, we wouldn't have probably never have heard that comment or maybe seen some of his antics, because like I said, it's the shock appeal is being noted, and the bottom line is, had this fighter been promoted, I mean, he's 40-0.
Yeah, but he's only fought
40. I don't care if he fought cupcakes.
Yeah, okay, but
I do care. I do care.
He did.
The bottom line is though,
and the truth of the matter is we can talk about that for a whole show. All right,
we can.
But unfortunately, we don't have the time right now. So I got another email
I wish I was his promoter. I tell you, he'd be a known entity in every household.
Hey, you heard Larry say just before that I should be helping him negotiate his contracts. Listen,
I think you should hire the Sal and Billy team or the Billy and Sal team. We'll forget about it.
To tell you the truth, I know that I could get Deontay a better deal than he's going to end up getting. You watch. But anyway, the last email we have is from my man Mitch. He says, hey, Billy C., we all know Oscar would rather wait another 12 months and have Canelo fight Triple G next May. He isn't comfortable bringing him back to fight in September after a year layoff. Here is a way Triple G can get big money and use it as leverage to fight Alvarez in May. Now, he's talking about May 2019. He says, go to Japan and fight the WBA's regular champion, Ryota Murata, in Japan at the Tokyo Dome. It seats 55,000, and I bet they can easily sell 40,000. Trust me, the Japanese would come out in large numbers to see that fight. The gate in Japan would allow Triple G to make much more than people would think. After beating Murata, he steps back to the negotiation table for a May 2019 fight with much more leverage. He says, look, Oscar, I drew over 40,000. Now you can't say anything. Oscar would have no choice but to swallow his pride and offer a 51-49 split and then go online to the masses and claim victory in the negotiations. I told you we would not give Triple G 50%, and I kept my word. Thanks for the email, Mitch. You're my man.
He is. Well,
you know, the bottom line is if I'm Triple G, again, if I have my negotiator hat on and I'm Triple G, I gotta have this fight sooner than later. My career's coming down to an end. The style I fight, I don't want to wait till May of 2019. I do understand the point, and I do agree that Triple G is in a position to make some good money to fight in Japan or even fight Billy Joe Saunders in the UK. If I'm Triple G, I try to get one of those deals in the works. Contingent upon the failure of a Triple G Canelo rematch. That's what I would do, a contingency-based contract with the next available big money guy. And he would have to look at who's in a position to put on that fight. And those two names are the two front runners, Murata in Japan and Billy Joe Saunders in England. But at the end of the day, like I used the analogy with Larry, Sal, Oscar De La Hoya, by making that statement that he's not going to take less than 60, whatever he said, 65-35, that's a stupid move because any kind of give and take there is going to be punching a bully in the mouth. And I just don't think that Canelo is all that anymore. And I think he needs to do some repairs to his image. And by holding out, acting like the prima donna that he is, as per Oscar's advice, I don't think it's helping him. I think it's hurting him.
Well, I think you're right, too. And it's like follow the bouncing ball. And we as fans, we endure what we have to put up with and still keep our motivation, excitement, and desires to see the fight come to fruition. I mean, Larry Hazzard said it best. Basically what we say, and we feel. The public wants to see these fights. The public wants to see. You could toss it, you could make it and present it in any way, shape, or form against any other opponent. But right now, the boxing fans, the public wants to see a Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua heavyweight championship bout, and they want to see Canelo Alvarez Triple G fight. And that's the bottom line. Those are the two biggest fights to date that we want to see before the end of 2018.
On this day in boxing history,
boy.
In 1987, Tony TNT Tucker knocks out Buster Douglas in the 10th round to win the vacant IBF World Heavyweight title. It took place in Las Vegas. On this day in 1925, Paul Berlenbach wins a 15-round decision over Mike McTeague to win the World Light Heavyweight title, and that took place in the Bronx, New York. On this day in 1923, Jack Bernstein wins a 15-round decision over Johnny Dundee to win the World Junior Lightweight title took place at Madison Square Garden in New York City. On this day in 1961, Johnny Caldwell wins a 15-round decision over Alphonse Salami to win the European World Bantamweight title, and that took place in London. On this day in 1951, Ezra Charles wins a 15-round decision over Joey Maxim to retain his World Heavyweight title, and that took place in Chicago. On this day in 1924, Pancho Villa wins a 15-round decision over Frankie Ash to retain his World Flyweight title. It took place in Brooklyn. Rumor had it that Frankie made a real ash of himself, but anyway. And that was bad.
I feel like Ed McMahon.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. Oh, God. And finally, on this day in 1889, James Corbett and Joe Chowinski enter the ring for a heavyweight fight to the finish in California. But after 4 rounds, the police stopped the fight. And that's the way it was back in those days. But
here's Billy.
Yeah. But anyway, hey, listen, boys and girls, we will be back better than ever on Monday morning. So make sure you tune in Monday morning, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.